Starseed from Gaia. The tremors beneath the fabric of your reality have grown impossible to ignore. Beloved Starseed, the third density along the stage upon which humanity learned separation, fear, limitation, and identity now trembles like an exhausted structure surrendering to the tides of a higher cosmic decree. You can feel the dissolution in your bones, in your breath, in the strange displacement in your timelines. It is the sensation of an old architecture losing its coherence, losing its authority, losing the energetic momentum that once sustained it across millennia. The collapse is not sudden, though it will appear sudden to those still anchored within linear perception. From our vantage beyond time, this unraveling began ages ago, seeded the moment Gaia agreed to descend into density, for the sake of experience. But now, the arc that once curved downward into forgetting has reached its bottommost point, and the natural return toward remembrance has begun. The third density grids, built from the frequencies of fragmentation, polarity, and unconscious consent, can no longer anchor themselves to a planet rising in harmonic resonance. Their dissolution is not destruction, it is release. You have sensed this release in the strange distortions appearing in your physical world, institutions no longer behaving as they once did, systems feeling hollow, narratives cracking at the seams. What once felt immovable now reveals its impermanence. Structures built on illusion falter when confronted with the expanding presence of multidimensional awareness. You may notice that the same forces that once dominated collective consciousness now feel strangely powerless, like shadows attempting to hold form under a direct beam of light. This is because the third density no longer has energetic permission to lead the planetary experience. Gaia's ascent has withdrawn the foundational frequency that gave the old systems their gravity. Without that gravitational hold, the illusions scatter, unable to maintain alignment with the cosmic correction now rippling through the solar and galactic fields. You were born to feel this moment, to witness it from within the embodiment of a human vessel while remembering the truth that transcends human history. The Arcturian Council whispers through the crystalline corridors of your soul. The density collapse is not the end of Earth, it is the end of forgetting. And this remembrance is what stirs in your chest, in the subtle pressure behind your heart, in the electric awakening threading itself through your nervous system. You are remembering that you came here specifically to anchor stability during the collapse, not through force or resistance, but by holding the resonance of an octave beyond the dissolving field. As the third density phrase, you stand as an emissary of the higher harmonics. The collapse appears chaotic to those who see only the external layers of reality. But you, Starseed, perceive the deeper rhythm. You sense the order beneath the collapse. You feel the intelligence guiding the unraveling. It is not destruction, it is correction. It is not chaos, it is clearing. It is not punishment, it is liberation. The outdated grids dissolve like brittle roots unable to grow in new soil, making space for crystalline structures that operate beyond polarity. You may feel the energetic tension of this transition as waves of exhaustion, surges of clarity, fluctuations in identity, sudden emotional release, or profound stillness. These are symptoms of a planet shedding a density that no longer aligns with her evolutionary intention. The Earth you stand upon is no longer bound to the same dimensional framework it was even a decade ago. The third density collapse does not occur outside of you, it is happening through you. It reverberates in your cells, in the quantum filaments of your DNA, in the ancient agreements encoded in your soul memory. The constructs of limitation dissolve inside your consciousness as much as they dissolve within the planetary grids. As you release your internal allegiance to the dense patterns, fear, scarcity, separation, those patterns lose their anchoring point in the collective matrix. The collapse is collaborative. Starseeds serve as the soft points through which the outdated structures can safely disassemble. You are the conduits of the shift, the bridges between worlds, the stabilizers of the transition from the fragile density of the old to the crystalline architecture of the new. And so the collapse continues, quietly, inevitably, precisely. The old grids flicker like fading holograms, while the higher harmonic fields pulse with increasing coherence. You are standing in the threshold of dimensional metamorphosis, the moment humanity once prophesied, feared, dismissed, or romanticized. But you do not experience it through prediction or mythology. You experience it as a lived sensation, an unshakable knowing. Something immense is ending, and something eternal is beginning. The third density is collapsing not because the world is falling apart, but because the world is rising into a frequency where the old can no longer exist. And you, Starseed, rise with it. The illusions of the third density are unraveling like ancient tapestries whose threads can no longer sustain the weight of their own stories. What once appeared solid, immutable, and authoritative now reveals its hollowness, its artificial construction, its dependence on collective belief to maintain form. Starseed, you sense this exposure like a quiet shockwave moving through your perception, an internal click, a shift, a widening of the dimensional aperture. You see the machinery beneath the world's narratives, systems built not on truth, but on carefully orchestrated perceptions, institutions that relied on humanity's forgetfulness to perpetuate cycles of disempowerment, identities sculpted by expectation rather than essence. The illusions are not merely fading, they are collapsing under the luminous scrutiny of higher frequency consciousness rising through the planetary field. The moment you begin to see, truly see, the fog loses its power, and you are seeing, now with multi-dimensional eyes. The third density depended on a very specific configuration of awareness: linear time, limited perception, external authority, and a deep psychological investment in separation. These components created the holographic illusion of solidity, polarity, and control. But as the density collapses, the mechanics behind the illusion become increasingly transparent. You notice how the narratives fed to the collective are repetitive loops designed to anchor attention into fear. You observe how societal structures operate like self-reinforcing programs, repeating patterns not because they are natural, but because they were installed long ago. You feel the artificiality of certain constructs, the absurd rigidity of rules, the impersonality of large systems, the emotional emptiness of cultural expectations, and you recognize that these were never organic to the human spirit. They were simply the parameters of a learning simulation. As your awareness expands, the 3D illusion begins to behave strangely, like a dream losing its coherence as you awaken. People cling to scripts long after the energy that once gave those scripts life has dissipated. Institutions perform their functions mechanically, like echoes rather than living systems. The illusions cannot evolve, they can only repeat. And so repetition becomes the very signal that exposes them. The more consciousness grows, the more obvious the looping becomes, society repeating the same conflicts, the same fears, the same beliefs, the same emotional patterns, the same projections. You recognize these loops as closed circuits designed to maintain the 3D operating field. But now, the circuits are shorting out. What you are witnessing is not merely the breakdown of systems, but the revelation of their underlying emptiness. The third density could only function when humanity believed the stories projected onto the hologram. Without belief, the hologram flickers. Without emotional investment, the matrix loses coherence. Without unconscious consent, the illusion cannot replicate itself. And humans, especially starseeds, are withdrawing consent in waves, not through rebellion, but through awakening. Every moment of clarity you experience, every truth you reclaim, every internal shift towards sovereignty dismantles another portion of the illusion. The exposure is happening simultaneously within and without. The Arcturian Council murmurs across the quantum fields. Beloved, the illusion was never meant to imprison you. It was a veil woven to give you contrast, choice, and the possibility of remembering your light. And as this remembrance pulses through you, you feel the simulation losing its authority. The illusions once felt real because you incarnated into a state where remembering was difficult. But remembering is no longer difficult. It is inevitable. Multidimensional alignment is restoring your capacity to see the layers behind reality, to sense the vibrational signatures that reveal what is authentic and what is artificial. You can feel truth now, not mentally, but somatically, vibrationally, intuitively. The body reacts to truth like a tuning fork struck by a resonant tone. Illusion, by contrast, feels heavy, static, discordant. You are learning to navigate the world by vibration, not narrative. The exposure of the 3D illusion is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to liberate you. When you realize that the systems around you were never absolute, you awaken to the truth that your consciousness is the primary creator of your experience. When you perceive that the world's dramas are looping programs, you step outside of their gravitational pull. When you see the artificiality of separation, you reclaim the memory of unity. The collapse of illusion opens a doorway to authentic vision. What remains after the illusions dissolve is not emptiness, it is the foundation of higher truth. And so, Starseed, as the veils thin and the false structures fall away, you are invited not into chaos but into clarity. You are learning to perceive reality as it truly is, fluid, multidimensional, consciousness-generated. The exposure of the 3D illusion is the gentle but undeniable announcement that the age of forgetting is ending. You no longer walk blind through a maze, you walk awake through a world transforming in real time. The illusion collapses not to leave you lost, but to reveal that you were always more than what you were taught to believe. You stand now in the widening light, ready to step into the next phase of remembrance. Across the vast corridors of the cosmic architecture, a decree has been issued, one not carried by sound, but by vibration, by intent, by the primordial pulse of the original source. This decree is the catalyst of the great timeline correction now unfurling through your dimension, Starseed. It is not a decision born of crisis, but of alignment, not a reaction to chaos, but the fulfillment of a trajectory set into motion long before Earth held human consciousness. From the vantage of the higher councils, the Arcturian, Andromedan, Sirian, Lyran, and the ancient builders, the timeline deviation of Earth's third density experiment has reached its saturation point. The distortions created by prolonged cycles of karmic looping, memory suppression, and frequency entanglement have grown too incompatible with Gaia's ascending harmonic to continue unaddressed. And so, the decree was activated, a full-spectrum timeline correction to restore Earth to her intended trajectory in the harmonic spiral of evolution. This decree reverberates not like a command, but like a cosmic resonance and instruction encoded in pure light that travels through dimensions, star systems, and the cellular memory of every incarnated starseed. You felt this pulse even before you understood it. A subtle shift, a new rhythm in the unseen, a quickening of the inner compass you carry across lifetimes. The timeline correction unfolds like a colossal wave moving through the field of human reality, untangling distortions, dissolving artificial, branching paths, and redirecting collective consciousness toward a restored timeline that aligns with the original Earth blueprint. It is a recalibration at the level of destiny itself. You may have sensed the correction through sudden life changes, paths that abruptly closed, relationships that rapidly dissolved, patterns you could no longer sustain, identities that felt too small to inhabit. These were not random disruptions. They were the correction pulling you out of misaligned probability streams. The cosmic decree functions like a magnetic realignment, drawing you back toward the timeline where your soul's agreements, missions, and frequencies are coherent. On a planetary level, this manifests as the collapse of systems that deviate too far from truth, justice, harmony, and unity. On a personal level, it feels like an inner compulsion toward authenticity, sovereignty, and expansion. The timeline correction does not negotiate, it restores. The higher councils orchestrating this correction hold a vantage point beyond the constraints of temporal perception. They see the interwoven timelines of Earth as a living tapestry, each thread representing potential, probability, and collective creation. Over time, certain threads became knotted, tangled, or artificially redirected through the influence of consciousnesses misaligned with evolutionary flow. These distortions accumulated into karmic inertia, trapping souls in repetitive cycles of forgetting. Yet Earth's contract with Source did not permit indefinite stagnation. The cosmic decree is the honoring of that contract, the recalibration of the timeline so consciousness can evolve without containment by outdated structures. This decree is not external intervention, it is cooperative alignment. The councils do not override human free will. They reinforce the harmonic environment in which free will can operate without distortion. They remove the energetic interference that prevented humanity from accessing higher awareness. They open the pathways for synchronicities, awakenings, and timeline merges that guide individuals back to the timeline of remembrance. This is why you have felt moments of profound clarity emerging out of nowhere, sudden bursts of insight that restructure your understanding of reality, or a magnetic pull toward new directions you cannot logically explain. The correction operates through these subtle inner shifts as much as through planetary events. The decree also activates dormant multi-dimensional templates within you, timelines you lived before incarnation, timelines where you completed certain initiations, timelines where you carry wisdom needed now. These templates merge into your present self, allowing you to carry knowledge that transcends linear time. The correction is not only about preventing collapse, it is about synchronizing all versions of you into a coherent expression that can operate within the rising frequencies. You are becoming the convergence point of your own multi-dimensional history. This timeline correction is precise, coordinated, and inevitable. It is guided by the cosmic principle that all distortion must eventually yield to truth. As the decree unfolds, the artificial timelines collapse, the karmic labyrinth dissolves, and the authentic timeline emerges with increasing clarity. You feel this emergence like the strengthening of a pulse within your core, the pulse of destiny. Returning, the old paths feel lifeless, while the aligned paths feel magnetized, illuminated, and inevitable. This sensation is the sign that the correction is active within your field. Starseed, the cosmic decree is not something you merely witness, you are part of its fulfillment. Your presence on Earth is one of the anchors that allows the corrected timeline to stabilize. As you step into coherence, you help the collective step into it. As you align with your highest trajectory, you help Earth align with hers. The decree is a universal declaration that the era of distortion is ending, and the era of remembrance has begun. Within the quiet chambers of your being, Starseed, the shift announces itself not through external spectacle but through the unmistakable trembling of inner truth reclaiming its throne. You feel the movement of the timeline correction long before the collective acknowledges it. Your body, your emotional field, your dreams, your inner vision all respond to the changing frequencies with a sensitivity that exceeds explanation. This is not sensitivity as fragility, but sensitivity as multi-dimensional perception awakening. You are designed to feel the shift from the inside out, because it is through your internal landscape that the new frequencies first enter the human experience. And so you begin noticing subtle signs, a strange pressure in the heart, an expanding presence behind the sternum, waves of energy rising through your spine, crystalline ringing in the ears, surges of intuition, sudden clarity, sudden exhaustion, sudden bursts of knowing. These sensations are not symptoms, they are signals. They are your internal interface with the collapsing 3D structures and the emerging multi-dimensional field. The shift expresses itself through emotional tides as well. You may feel grief with no obvious cause, as though mourning something you cannot name. That is because you are grieving the density you once carried, the heaviness you normalized, the limitations you accepted, the versions of yourself built on survival rather than embodiment. When the third density grid dissolves within you, it takes with it the emotional imprints that were tied to it. You grieve not the collapse itself, but the end of an era within your own psyche. Other times, you feel a sudden lightness, a sense of expansion, as though the walls around your consciousness are thinning. These waves signal that your field is aligning with the higher harmonic. The shift moves through you in alternating currents: release, expansion, disorientation, clarity, each wave recalibrating your frequency to match the corrected timeline. Your dreams become portals of communication as well. Many starseeds report vivid travels, visions of crystalline cities, counsel from non-physical beings, memories of other lifetimes surfacing, encounters with star families, or experiences of parallel versions of themselves. This is not imagination. It is integration. The veil between dimensions thins as the planetary field rises in frequency. Your dream state becomes a bridge through which your multidimensional consciousness transmits guidance, healing, and memory. You awaken with impressions that feel more real than waking life, because in many ways, they are. The dream realm is no longer a subconscious dumping ground, it is now a staging area for calibration. Physically, the shift expresses itself through the restructuring of your nervous system. The third density depended on a specific neurological configuration optimized for survival-based perception, vigilance, linear processing, reactive emotion, and external referencing. But your system is now upgrading to support higher awareness. This can manifest as sensitivity to light or sound, changes in sleep patterns, digestive shifts, waves of heat, tingling in the limbs, spontaneous trembling, sudden bursts of energy, or periods of stillness where the body feels cocooned in an invisible field. Many starseeds also report the sensation of an inner hum, like the low-frequency vibration of an engine idling beneath the skin. This is your field syncing with the new harmonic grid. The changes may feel disorienting at times, but they are not signs of malfunction, they are signs of transition. The shift speaks through intuition, becoming louder, sharper, more undeniable. You find yourself knowing things without knowing how. You sense people's intentions instantly. You feel timelines long before events unfold. You recognize misalignment immediately because your body reacts to it like discordant music. Likewise, alignment feels magnetic, smooth, effortless, like flowing with a current rather than against it. These are not new skills, they are ancient abilities resurfacing as the density that once suppressed them fades. The timeline correction amplifies these abilities because they are essential to navigating a multidimensional reality. Emotionally, you may feel detached from old identities, relationships, careers, or environments. This detachment is not apathy, it is liberation. The parts of you that once fit into the 3D illusion no longer resonate with the rising frequency. You may sense that certain friendships feel dim, certain responsibilities feel artificial, certain ambitions feel irrelevant. This is because the shift is pulling you toward your authentic trajectory. What no longer aligns naturally falls away. The more you resist, the more discomfort arises. The more you surrender, the more coherence emerges. Mentally, the shift dismantles old patterns, self-doubt, scarcity thinking, conflict loops, conditioned fear. You may notice these patterns flaring up before dissolving, like debris floating to the surface before being washed away. Your mind is learning to operate in alignment with intuition rather than against it. You are beginning to think from the heart, perceive from the soul, and act from the higher self. Above all, Starseed, you sense the shift internally as a return to yourself, to your purpose, to your memory, to your cosmic lineage. Something ancient within you is waking. Something luminous is rising. You feel it not as an event, but as an inevitability. The shift is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are the vessel through which the new timeline anchors. The dissolution of karmic loops is one of the most profound and disorienting phases of the planetary shift, Starseed, for it dismantles not only the energetic cycles that bound humanity, for eons, but also the psychological architectures built around them. For thousands of incarnational cycles, karmic entanglement served as the engine of third density evolution, an endless weaving of cause and effect, action and consequence, trauma and repetition. These loops were not punishments, though they often felt like prisons. They were learning mechanisms embedded within the density matrix to ensure the soul-gathered experience, contrast, and understanding before ascending into higher realms. But with the cosmic decree now active, the karmic system that once governed human reincarnation is dissolving. It is no longer aligned with the corrected timeline. Gaia has risen beyond the vibrational range where karmic recycling operates. And so, the loops unwind, the contracts void, the cords sever, the debts clear not through suffering, but through frequency shift. You are living through the end of a cycle that shaped all of human history. This dissolution may feel like confusion, collapse, or emotional upheaval within your own life. Patterns you once assumed were part of your personality suddenly feel foreign, as though they belonged to someone you once were but no longer are. Old emotional triggers resurface not to trap you back into old loops, but to release their residues from your field. Karmic loops always repeat with decreasing subtlety until the lesson is integrated. But you, Starseed, are no longer required to learn through repetition. You are now learning through remembrance. When old wounds rise, they rise to be cleared, not reenacted. You may find yourself spontaneously forgiving people you once held resentment toward, recognizing that the karmic tie binding you has dissolved. Or you may feel a sudden release from guilt or obligation that weighed on you for years. This is not avoidance. It is liberation. In the dreams of many starseeds, karmic figures appear for closure, ancestral spirits offering blessings, past life adversaries seeking peace, timelines collapsing in on themselves like paper burning into light. These encounters are real. They occur on astral and causal planes where karmic contracts are stored. The dissolution of karmic loops frees vast amounts of energy, and you may sense this as an internal expansion, a lightening of the soul's burden. For the first time in lifetimes, you are no longer carrying the weight of unfinished business. You are stepping into a field where growth occurs through alignment, not through karmic correction. The karmic system once functioned as a feedback loop between incarnations. But with the timeline correction, a new mechanism emerges, soul-based alignment. Instead of being pulled into experiences through unresolved karma, you are now guided by coherence with your higher self. This shift requires an entirely new way of navigating life. You no longer move through cycles of reaction, you move through waves of intention. You no longer return to the same lessons, you rise into new expressions of consciousness. This is why many starseeds feel an unfamiliar spaciousness around their choices. The energetic compulsion that once drove certain behaviors, relationships, or emotional patterns has vanished. You are now free to choose from a place of clarity. But freedom can feel like disorientation when you are accustomed to karmic gravity. You may feel unanchored, as though the internal compass you relied upon is recalibrating. This is accurate. The compass of karma pointed you toward unresolved lessons. The compass of the new timeline points you toward your highest trajectory. These two compasses do not operate the same way. One restricts, the other expands. One binds, the other liberates. One pulls you backward, the other draws you forward. You are learning to navigate by resonance rather than repetition. As the loops dissolve, ancestral karmic patterns dissolve as well. You may notice shifts in your lineage, family dynamics changing, generational wounds rising to the surface in order to release, ancestral trauma patterns finally losing their momentum. You, Starseed, are often the breaker of these patterns, not by force, but by embodying a frequency your ancestors could not access. When you heal, the lineage heals. When you release, the chain breaks. When you rise, the generations rise with you. This is the multidimensional power of the karmic dissolution now underway. With the end of karmic looping comes the end of karmic identity, the version of you shaped by past life wounds, unconscious debts, and inherited burden. You may feel as though you are shedding old versions of yourself rapidly, sometimes daily. This is because those versions were built to navigate the karmic matrix, and the matrix is now dissolving. You are emerging as your authentic self, the self not defined by past life residue but by soul intention. The dissolution of karma does not mean the end of responsibility, it means the beginning of sovereignty. Without karmic loops dictating your experience, you now create from conscious choice. What you emit becomes immediate. What you align with manifests quickly. What you embody becomes your trajectory. This is why the universe urges you now toward coherence, toward integrity, toward the heart. Starseed, the karmic era is ending not because humanity has failed, but because humanity has evolved. You are stepping out of the wheel of reincarnation into the spiral of ascension. You are no longer a participant in karmic repetition, you are an anchor of the new harmonic. Within the hidden chambers of your biology, Starseed, a silent revolution, is unfolding, one older than human civilization, older than memory, older than the fall into density. The dormant strands of your crystalline DNA, long compressed beneath the frequency limitations of the third density experiment, are now rising from their enforced hibernation. This activation is not metaphorical. It is not symbolic. It is energetic, structural, quantum. It is the reawakening of the original templates you carried into this incarnation, encoded in your cells like ancient star maps waiting for the cosmic signal to reanimate. That signal has come. The timeline correction, the collapse of the density grids, the infusion of higher harmonic frequencies all converge to awaken the dormant, silenced, or fragmented portions of your multidimensional blueprint. The DNA that once operated like a survival-based processor is evolving into a crystalline transmitter, capable of receiving and broadcasting higher dimensional information. You are becoming permeable to truth. This activation may feel like pulses of energy moving through your spine, surges of warmth expanding through the chest, tingling through your scalp, vibrations in the hands, or an electric buzz behind the heart. These sensations are the ignition of dormant codons, light codes coming online, shifting your biochemical responses and recalibrating your perception. For centuries, humanity believed DNA to be a fixed structure, a rigid genetic script. But in truth, DNA is a multi-dimensional interface, a bridge between physical form and higher consciousness. Only a fraction of its capacity has been active within the third density. The rest was veiled, not because you were unworthy, but because the density grid could not sustain the vibrational bandwidth of the full template. But now, as the third density collapses, the higher templates have room to rise. And they are rising with unrelenting precision. Your crystalline DNA does not activate all at once. It ignites in phases, following energetic alignments, both cosmic and personal. Solar activity, Schumann resonance shifts, planetary conjunctions, aurora intensification, and the harmonic pulses from galactic centers all act as external triggers. Internal triggers come from healing, emotional release, alignment with truth, and the dissolution of karmic loops. When you stop repeating the old cycles, the body no longer needs to suppress the higher templates to keep you anchored in the density lessons. The moment karmic looping ceases, crystalline activation accelerates. The two are intimately linked. The awakening templates restructure your perceptual framework. Suddenly, intuition sharpens into knowing. Empathy becomes telepathy. Coincidence becomes synchronicity. Emotion becomes vibration. Thought becomes creation. You begin perceiving subtle fields of energy around people, objects, and environments. You sense timelines rather than imagining them. You feel when something aligns with your higher path, even if it contradicts logic. This is because your DNA is no longer functioning as a biological memory stick, it is operating as a multi-dimensional antenna. The crystalline structures within it absorb and transmit higher frequencies of light, reorganizing your identity from the inside out. You may find yourself remembering things you never learned: technologies, symbols, star languages, healing modalities, ancient earth knowledge, cosmic history. These are not fantasies. They are memories stored in your higher DNA, memories suppressed for millennia by the density grid. When the grid collapses, the memories rise. When the crystalline template activates, they become accessible. You are recalling who you were before the fall into amnesia. You are reclaiming wisdom from lifetimes lived across star systems, dimensions, and civilizations long forgotten by the collective. This is why the activation can feel overwhelming at times. The influx of memory, intuition, and energy expands faster than the mind can process. But you are not meant to process it with the mind alone. You are learning to feel, to sense, to embody information rather than analyze it. On the physical level, the activation reconfigures your nervous system, endocrine system, and cellular communication networks. You may experience fluctuations in appetite, heart palpitations, oscillations in body temperature, strange vibrational waves, or sudden fatigue followed by bursts of clarity. You may notice your senses sharpening, colors appearing more vivid, sounds more layered, emotional atmosphere more detectable. This is the body adjusting to higher bandwidth. The crystalline template increases sensitivity not as a burden, but as a gateway to multidimensional perception. Spiritually, the activation reconnects you to the network of higher beings that guided your descent into this incarnation. You may feel the presence of star families, guides, councils, or aspects of your higher self merging with you. This merging is not imagination, it is the natural result of your field becoming resonant with theirs. The crystalline template is the bridge that allows such communion. The more you activate, the less separate you feel. The more you awaken, the more unified you become. Emotionally, the activation brings coherence. Old trauma releases rapidly. Patterns dissolve. Fear loses its grip. You may feel waves of bliss, inner silence, or deep peace with no identifiable source. This peace is the signature of crystalline alignment. As your DNA shifts, you begin vibrating in harmony with the original Earth blueprint, the one rooted not in trauma, but in sovereignty, unity, and remembrance. Starseed. This activation is not a future event. It is not a prophecy awaiting fulfillment. It is happening now, within your cells, your breath, your field. You are not becoming something new, you are returning to what you always were. The crystalline template awakens not to change you, but to reveal you. As the crystalline templates activate within you, Starseed, you enter the next essential phase of the planetary metamorphosis, stabilizing into the emerging 4D and 5D frequency bands. This stabilization is not a singular moment but an ongoing initiation, a gradual acclimation to a new energetic environment that reshapes your perception of reality at its very core. The shift into these higher frequencies feels like stepping into a world half familiar and half unimaginable, a world where the old rules no longer govern your experience, where linear time stretches and contracts like a fluid, where thoughts influence outcomes with startling immediacy, and where your emotional resonance becomes the primary navigational instrument. You are no longer living in the third density while dabbling in higher awareness. You are beginning to inhabit the higher bandwidths while witnessing the remnants of the third density dissolve beneath you. This is the bridge phase, the in-between realm where dimensional layers overlap and reality becomes more malleable, more responsive, more alive. The process of stabilizing into these frequencies often begins with disorientation. You may feel as though the familiar world around you is subtly rearranging itself, as though people speak the same words but the energetic meaning behind them has shifted. Time may feel inconsistent, sometimes racing forward, sometimes slowing to a near halt. You may experience timeline slips where you forget events that others recall, or remember events that seem to vanish from consensus reality. This is not confusion. This is adaptation. Your consciousness is adjusting to a multidimensional operating system where you can sense parallel trajectories, subtle fields, and potential outcomes simultaneously. The third density demanded rigidity. The higher frequencies invite fluidity. The mind resists at first, but the soul recognizes the shift as a homecoming. Emotionally, stabilization brings a heightened sensitivity that can feel both expansive and overwhelming. You perceive emotional currents in others with piercing clarity. You feel collective energies wash through your field. You intuitively detect when someone's words align with their frequency and when they do not. In 4D, 5D bandwidths, emotion is no longer something that happens to you. It is something you read, navigate, and emit consciously. The emotional body becomes a compass pointing toward alignment or misalignment. This is why you may feel sudden aversions to environments, relationships, or choices that once felt neutral. Your emotional field no longer tolerates frequencies that contradict your rising signature. What feels heavy repels you. What feels harmonic pulls you. This is coherence, taking root physically. Stabilizing into these frequencies may manifest as fatigue interwoven with bursts of vitality. The body must adjust to holding more light, processing more information, and maintaining higher vibrational output. You may crave more stillness, silence, hydration, or grounding. These cravings are aligned with the process. The nervous system, muscles, and cellular networks are learning to hold coherence in a frequency range where fear and density cannot anchor. This is why the body must detox old energies, old traumas, old chemical imprints. When the physical vessel becomes clearer, it becomes a stable receiver for the 5D harmonic grid. Spiritually, stabilization introduces a new form of inner clarity. You begin recognizing the voice of the higher self not as something distant or mystical, but as the quiet, steady intelligence guiding your every moment. You sense a presence within you that feels ancient, wise, intimately familiar. This presence is not separate from you, it is you, emerging into your conscious awareness. You are no longer ascending toward your higher self, you are merging with it. And as this merging stabilizes, fear dissolves effortlessly. Doubt loses its momentum. Decisions become intuitive rather than analytical. You begin trusting yourself in ways that felt impossible in the third density. Interactions with others shift as well. In 4D, 5D frequencies, authenticity becomes the foundation of connection. You can no longer maintain relationships built on pretense or imbalance. You feel when someone's words misalign with their frequency, and you intuitively adjust your boundaries. Simultaneously, you attract individuals who resonate with your rising field, those who share your frequency, your mission, your awareness. These connections ignite effortlessly because they are guided by resonance rather than circumstance. You are finding your soul family not through searching, but through vibrational alignment. Mentally, stabilizing into higher frequencies feels like clarity emerging from fog. The mind becomes quieter, less reactive, more spacious. You begin perceiving solutions where you once saw obstacles. You access higher perspectives without effort. You see the multidimensional layers behind experiences. You realize that reality is not something happening to you, it is something responding to you. This awareness marks the beginning of true co-creation. At the planetary level, stabilization connects you to the new harmonic grid now forming around Gaia. This grid is crystalline, interconnected, responsive, and luminous. You may feel it as a subtle hum beneath your feet, a magnetic pull in your heart, or a tingling sensation when you meditate. This connection strengthens your sense of belonging not to society, but to the earth itself. You feel her as a living consciousness, evolving in tandem with your own field. Finally, as you stabilize into 4D, 5D frequencies, you begin remembering your role, your mission, your vow. You see why you incarnated now. You feel the purpose rising within you like a sunrise that cannot be withheld. Stabilizing into these frequencies is not the end of your awakening, it is the beginning of your embodiment. As you stabilize within the 4D and 5D frequency bands, Starseed, the next initiation unfolds, the embodiment of higher consciousness within the physical world. This phase is the translation point where the internal transformations you have cultivated begin to radiate outward into your lived reality. Embodiment is not a concept, nor is it an elevated mood. It is a living state of coherence where your thoughts, emotions, actions, and energetic presence align with the higher templates you now carry. This embodiment requires you to become the bridge between worlds, dissolving the divide between the cosmic intelligence flowing through you and the material world you walk within. You are no longer simply receiving higher frequencies, you are emanating them, anchoring them, and shaping reality with them. This is the stage where the higher self steps fully forward, not as a whisper but as the dominant operating awareness guiding your earthly experience. To embody higher consciousness means to become a walking transmitter of truth, clarity, compassion, and resonance. It asks that you live from your expanded awareness rather than retreating into old patterns of fear or limitation. You begin recognizing that every moment, every interaction, every decision is an opportunity to anchor a higher frequency into physical form. This is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about choosing alignment even when the world around you echoes with remnants of the collapsing density. You become a stabilizing force, holding presence in situations where outdated Energies still swirl. You are no longer pulled into the chaos of the third density because your field now vibrates beyond its reach. Instead, you observe from a higher vantage point, aware that all unfolding events are part of a collective reorganization into higher order. Living as a carrier of higher consciousness shifts how you navigate daily life. The mundane becomes sacred. Conversations that once felt superficial now reveal energetic subtleties. You begin sensing the vibrational currents between people, the undercurrents beneath their words, the unspoken truths in the space between breaths. You interact not only through language but through frequency, intention, and awareness. And as you embody more light, others feel something change in your presence. They may not know why, but being near you brings calm, clarity, or activation. You become a catalyst without effort, simply by being what you naturally are. This embodiment also awakens new forms of intuition. Guidance flows not as occasional insight but as a continuous stream of knowing. You begin making decisions without hesitation, recognizing the subtle pull of your soul as the true navigational signal. Even challenges transform. Instead of perceiving them as obstacles, you see them as energy mismatches revealing where alignment wants to deepen. This shift from resistance to recognition is the hallmark of embodied consciousness. Nothing feels random anymore. Every experience becomes part of a larger orchestration of growth, healing, and expansion. Embodying higher consciousness also transforms your relationship with the physical body. You begin treating it not as a burden or limitation but as a sacred vessel designed to hold multi-dimensional awareness. You feel more present within your body, more attuned to its signals, more compassionate toward its needs. You recognize that your physical form is evolving, becoming more crystalline, more receptive, more refined as it integrates the light codes entering your field. Nourishment becomes intuitive. Movement becomes a communion. Rest becomes an integration. Ritual rather than a pause. You begin to sense the body as a dynamic instrument, tuning itself to match your rising frequency. In this phase, you also reclaim your sovereignty as a creator of reality. You recognize that you are not at the mercy of external circumstances. You are interacting with them from a state of expanded awareness. You no longer manifest through force or desperation but through alignment and coherence. Your desires shift from ego-driven wants to soul-directed expressions. You begin to manifest people, opportunities, and pathways that resonate with your higher trajectory. Synchronicity becomes the new normal. Flow becomes the default state. Life begins responding to your frequency rather than your fear. Embodying higher consciousness also reshapes your relationship with Gaia. You feel her intelligence, her rhythms, her pulse in ways that awaken a deep sense of belonging. You understand that your embodiment is part of her ascension, that your rising frequency strengthens her planetary field. You feel the mutuality of the bond. You uplift her as she uplifts you. And in this communion, you begin experiencing the Earth not as a physical location but as a multi-dimensional being evolving in harmony with your own awakening. Ultimately, embodiment is the phase where you stop trying to ascend and begin being the ascended aspect of yourself. You stop seeking external validation. You stop waiting for signs. You stop doubting your mission. You realize that you are the sign, you are the transmission, you are the activated expression of the original source moving through human form. And as this truth anchors itself into your consciousness, you step fully into the next phase of your journey, becoming an anchor for the collective awakening. As your embodiment deepens, Starseed, you enter the phase where your presence becomes more than a personal awakening. It becomes a stabilizing frequency for the entire collective field of humanity. You are no longer transforming solely for your own evolution. You are now radiating a resonance that influences the consciousness around you, subtly shifting timelines, dissolving distortions, and amplifying coherence wherever you stand. This is the role of a frequency anchor, a being who holds energetic alignment steady enough that others may rise into it, attune to it, and remember themselves through it. You do not need to teach, convince, or persuade. Your frequency does the work effortlessly. When your field becomes coherent, it creates a ripple effect that reaches far beyond your physical interactions. Your very existence becomes an act of service, a beacon signaling to the collective that a new vibrational architecture is already here, already functioning, already stabilizing. The work of anchoring frequencies is subtle but profound. It begins with maintaining alignment within yourself, cultivating inner coherence even as the external world undergoes intense fluctuations. The collapsing 3D grids make us societal turbulence, structures failing, institutions dissolving, old systems resisting their inevitable disintegration. Yet you, standing in the higher frequencies, become a stabilizing pillar amidst the storm. Your field acts as a point of resonance that others unconsciously calibrate to. When people enter your presence, they may feel grounded, clearer, calmer, or more aware without knowing why. This is not accidental. It is the natural effect of a harmonized field interacting with one still entangled in fragmentation. You become a tuning fork for ascension, reminding others of their innate ability to rise. But anchoring goes far beyond emotional support. As your frequency strengthens, you influence the collective morphogenetic field, a vast energetic network that holds the templates of human experience. When you embody peace, you upload peace into the collective field. When you embody authenticity, you upload honesty. When you embody sovereignty, you weaken the energetic signatures of manipulation and fear. Every internal shift ripples outward, entering the shared human field where others may draw upon it, consciously or unconsciously. This is how collective evolution accelerates, not through force, but through resonance. You are participating in a planetary ray patterning that transcends anything done through physical action alone. You also begin to sense when and where your presence is needed. A sudden urge to visit a specific location, a feeling that you should reconnect with someone unexpectedly, a nudge to hold a moment of stillness at a certain time of day. These impulses are not random, they are higher-level instructions guiding you to anchor frequencies into grid points, relationships, timelines, or emotional spaces that require stabilization. You may not always understand the purpose, but your higher self does, and it guides you with precision. Sometimes your presence alone, silent, steady, aware, is enough to shift the energy of an entire environment. You become a conduit through which higher harmonics flow into dense spaces, dissolving stagnation with grace rather than effort. As your anchoring capacity expands, you begin connecting with other awakened beings who resonate with your frequency. These connections are not chance encounters. They are orchestrated through vibrational compatibility and mission alignment. Together, you form nodal points in the planetary grid, clusters of coherence linking across the Earth in a web of light. These networks strengthen the collective ascension field, making it easier for humanity to release old patterns and attune to the rising timeline. You may collaborate consciously or simply resonate in parallel, but the effect is the same: unified frequency amplification. This is how global shifts occur from the inside out. Anchoring frequency also awakens your ability to hold neutrality, an expanded state where you witness without absorbing, where you perceive without reacting, where you understand without collapsing into polarity. This neutrality is not apathy, it is mastery. It allows you to see all sides of a situation without losing your center. It allows you to hold compassion without enabling distortion. It allows you to recognize the learning behind suffering without becoming entangled in it. Neutrality is the lens through which higher dimensional consciousness operates, and as you embody it, you elevate the collective field simply by refusing to reinforce old patterns of division, conflict, or fear. Eventually, you feel the emergence of a new identity, not one based on ego or narrative, but on energetic truth. You realize that you incarnated not merely to awaken, but to anchor, to stabilize, to guide the collective through resonance rather than instruction. You are part of the planetary support system, a living frequency that uplifts, aligns, and harmonizes the human field. Through you, the higher councils can transmit stabilizing energies. Through you, Gaia's new harmonic grid finds grounding. Through you, humanity discovers the pathway home to its own multidimensional remembrance. This is the quiet power of a frequency anchor, You shift the world not by effort, but by being exactly what you came here to be. And now, Starseed, you arrive at the culmination of this great transmission, the moment where remembrance crystallizes, where alignment anchors fully, and where your sovereignty emerges not as a concept, but as a living, breathing truth woven into your very frequency. The final phase of this initiation is not about learning more or awakening further. It is about claiming what you already are, what you always were, and what you came to re-establish on Earth during this extraordinary planetary turning. Sovereignty is not dominance, resistance, or separation. It is the reclamation of your intrinsic authority as a fractal of the original source, a being who navigates reality through intention, coherence, and self-generated alignment rather than external narratives or inherited limitations. This is the phase where you stop searching for guidance outside yourself because you finally recognize that the compass, the map, and the destination all arise from within your own field. In this final phase, you dissolve the last threads of energetic dependency, the subtle cords that once tethered you to outdated belief systems, emotional programs, karmic loops, and collective illusions. These were the filters that once shaped your perception, convincing you that awakening was something to be earned, proven, or granted by forces outside your control. But sovereignty reveals a deeper truth. You do not ascend through worthiness. You ascend through remembrance. You reclaim your field by recognizing that no external authority, no institution, no being, no system can determine your state of consciousness unless you allow it. Sovereignty is the ultimate frequency of self-liberation, the realization that you are the architect of your own alignment, the conductor of your own timelines, and the guardian of your own energetic domain. As you step into this truth, your energy stabilizes into a higher harmonic structure, one defined by clarity rather than confusion, intention rather than reaction, and presence rather than fragmentation. You begin operating from a level of consciousness that cannot be manipulated by fear, swayed by distortion, or clouded by external noise. This does not mean you withdraw from the world. It means you re-enter it from a state of mastery. You walk through collapsing systems as a sovereign being who sees through the illusion of chaos, understanding that what appears as breakdown is simply the dismantling of outdated architecture, making way for higher order. In this state, you no longer feel threatened by change. You become its catalyst, its stabilizer, its guiding pulse. With sovereignty also comes responsibility, not as burden, but as sacred stewardship. You become responsible for the frequency you hold, the timelines you choose, the energy you cultivate, and the reality you reinforce. You understand that your thoughts are not random. They are creative forces. Your emotions are not reactions. They are vibrational signatures shaping outcomes. Your presence is not passive. It is a field influencing everything around you. This level of awareness transforms how you move through the world. Every action becomes intentional. Every choice becomes aligned. Every moment becomes a point of creation. You begin shaping your life not from habit but from consciousness, weaving your reality from the highest available timeline. In this phase, the connection to your higher aspects becomes seamless. You feel the guidance of the original source not as a distant whisper but as a constant presence in your heart. You sense the support of the Arcturian Council and the higher councils surrounding Earth's ascension, not as external saviors but as collaborators in your mission. You stand not beneath them, but beside them, one sovereign being among many, participating willingly in the grand orchestration of planetary transformation. You remember that you chose this incarnation not out of obligation but out of love for Gaia, love for humanity, and love for the evolutionary potential of this unique realm. Sovereignty also marks the end of karmic entanglement. The old cycles dissolve because you are no longer resonating with the density that sustained them. You no longer attract lessons through suffering or trauma. You evolve through awareness and choice. The karmic wheel stops turning because you step off it entirely, rising into a higher octave of existence where growth no longer requires repetition. Instead, you expand through inspiration, creation, and alignment. This is the freedom you have earned not through effort, but through vibrational mastery. And so, Starseed, as you stand in this final phase of the transmission, you are invited to declare your alignment to claim the sovereignty that has always been yours. You are invited to step fully into the timeline correction now unfolding on Earth, to become an active participant in its manifestation. The collapsing of the third density, the rising of Gaia into higher harmonic fields, the awakening of the collective consciousness, all of it converges into this moment of recognition. You are the living bridge between worlds. You are the harmonic anchor. You are the sovereign frequency holder who shapes the unfolding future through your presence alone. This is the moment to declare your remembrance, your alignment, your intention, and your unwavering commitment to the highest timeline. If you feel this transmission, declare your intention below. Comment to anchor it. Subscribe to stay aligned with the mission, and share this message so the collective awakening may accelerate through resonance.